Okay, welcome everybody. I kind of hear a fan going off in the background there. Welcome to the last day of April 2018. As you saw in my text, some of you who are on launch partners, you saw this is month end stretch. So what do we mean by that? Well, what we mean by month end stretch is this is where you make volume and dollars stretch to get that little bit extra so we can create a rank advancement, essentially, or meet a qualification or one of the incentives that are happening. So we got some people who are going for that. So I thought maybe I have another agenda for this call, which I really need to get to. But I thought since we are at month end and some of you may be looking at some ranks advancing in your downline or you're meeting some qualifications, I might ask you to jump in and share some insights about what you've done in order to help somebody get that extra little bit. And I have to preface this by telling you, if you haven't listened to or watched a video called Silver's a Blast, I encourage you to watch that. You can go to YouTube and just type in Silver's a Blast. Watch, I mean, essentially you're watching it, but you're listening to it because it's an audio. And listen to this because it's a presentation of an interview that I did of several people, many people who had all crossed the silver finish line, if you will, in a very small time frame that I was working with. And there was an interview process that I took them through that I thought was quite useful because it showed a very simple but consistent pattern of what it took to go silver, the month that everybody was running for silver. And some of the people who were involved for many months, in fact, even years. And some of the people who were brand spanking new, who crossed over in a matter of either days or I think the person who took the longest was 6 weeks. So you're wondering, okay, wait a minute, don't we have 90 days to do this? Yeah, you do. In today's compensation plan, Nikan has stretched it out over 90 days, but it doesn't mean you have to take 90 days to do it. In fact, I don't think it's the best way to do it at all. So we want to help people focus and compress time and bang it out as quickly as possible for a number of reasons. You're more profitable, you create a better success story, and people can focus for shorter periods of time rather than extended periods of time. So I just kind of like things to get done fast in a compressed way, and then you tend to duplicate that behavior as time goes on. So why don't you just throw out just a few examples of what you did in the days or hours or even minutes of the end of the month to help somebody achieve an advancement and rank or meet a qualification? Anyone, just go ahead and throw some stuff out. Okay, let me start.
Mike?
While you're thinking about it. You got something, Michelle?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Definitely the ABCs, getting getting that A on the phone to close for the closing process, for sure.
Critical. Sure. Very, very critical. One of the things that I like to tell everybody is draw it out. You've talked to people. If you've been sowing seeds, you've been planting seeds, you've got people at various stages of the information process. And so put it on paper, draw it out. Where do these people appear? Sometimes they're downline to somebody. There's somebody you sponsored who had some. Get everybody on this grid so you can sort of see the genealogy of your prospects and include what I usually do is I do prospects in a dotted line. And then I do people who are actually signed up in a solid line. And I put their rank where they're at and what their volume is. So where they're approaching, if they're making it close to executive and so forth, whatever information I can gather, because sometimes it just takes one move by one person as a customer downline that can trigger a response in somebody else. And it's sort of that tic-tac-toe. If this happens, then this could happen. And if that happens, then this could happen. And bang, we've got a leg that just went executive, or bang, we got a leg that just went silver. So if you've got it laid out, it's a lot easier to visualize this possible tic-tac-toe. And then you can think about, okay, if this first thing was to happen, it's very likely the second thing would happen. And if that second thing happened, well, it's pretty much a shoe, and the third thing is going to happen. So then the focus becomes the first thing. What do we need to do to get that first thing to happen that can make things happen? So some suggestions. What does it take to move a customer, a prospective customer, in the wee hours of the last minutes of the month to make a decision to help something happen? Anybody?
Offer a bonus or an incentive or a gift.
Yes, everybody loves that. So is it worth it? If you put a little incentive on the table, you're taking money out of your pocket, but are you making it back in terms of your rank advancement? Are you making it back in terms of the money that you're going to earn now at the new rank level, at the new commission level? Yeah, it's a good investment. So incentives by way of some products. So for instance, hey, get that pillow and I'll get you some pillowcases. Or hey, get that pad that you've been thinking about, and I'll tell you what, I'll throw in the quilt. I'll throw in the comforter. And these are the kind of things I like to do when it comes to bigger orders. But that's the kind of thinking we're talking about, incentives. Anybody else? Well, remember, it's not just products, it's volume that makes things happen in our business. So how can we generate some additional volume?
We're giving ideas like graduations coming up, wedding presents, early shopping, whatever you can do to get people to look ahead, to get that volume in there. And other customers, loyal customers that you have, just asking if they would do you a favor and you're happy to give a customer. Somebody that's a loyal customer. So kind of making all the phone calls that we should have been making in the 39 days before or whatever, but in that there's a bit of excitement about it, because we all know that in the last week, in the last 24 hours, in the last 6 hours is, especially when you're on a run, when most of the calls are made. So there's kind of an adrenaline about it, and that comes out in the vibrations. Mm-hmm. Been a lot of silvers in the last day of the month, or executives or whatever.
Yeah. It's where it's like popcorn. All of a sudden the temperature's right and pop, everything starts happening. Okay, so again, we're talking about ways of thinking outside the box, being creative about that. By the way, the ABC is such a powerful tool, because you know what? You may be shy about asking somebody to do you a favor, maybe, get something that you've been thinking about now. But an A wouldn't have a problem with that, especially if the A said, hey, listen, we're helping Christian go silver this month. And I don't know that means much to you, but it's a pretty important promotion in ECAN. It's going to give him some faculty, some tools at his disposal. And we'd really like to him do it. So we're asking everybody he knows, if there's something they've seen, if there's something that they've seen in the ECAN catalog, or maybe they can look right now and maybe they can make a purchase and help this process from happening. We're not going to bed until it's done, so hopefully you'll say yes. It could be just something simple like that an A would be able to say that a person wouldn't be able to say to a friend or a family member or whatever, to ask on their behalf. And you know what? People love to help other people, especially if they know it's going to help. And I'm telling you, this is not theory. This is reality. This is what we've seen happen time and time again. Any other ideas? Well, let me throw one out about volume. Volume is a really cool one. Since we need volume in order to rank advance, sometimes the incentive is to help somebody rank advance. So, hey, so-and-so, you're this close. If you do this, I'll do that. And that combined volume, boom. So it's sort of two people making the effort in terms of an investment. Now, what I might offer is one person product, but I'll place the volume under somebody else. So for instance, let me give an example. Let's say I have a retail customer and I'm going to put in an incentive, or one of the people that we're talking to is potentially a retail customer. Let's say the quilt, for instance. Hey, they're going to get a sleep system. We'll throw in the quilt. Well, they don't care where that quilt order is placed, just as long as they receive a quilt for their order. So I could put that order for that quilt somewhere else, shipped to whoever it is that I need it shipped to. Now I've given the volume to person B, and person A receives the product that I promised them. So now I'm getting two bangs for my buck. I'm getting volume points, and I'm getting additional volume from the purchase of the retail incentive. So that's another way to double leverage something. So your one incentive dollar can go much further if you think a little bit more advanced. Who would benefit from the points? Who would benefit from the products? And again, it's easier to see all of this if it's drawn out. Any other thoughts about this? Okay. Well, I hope you guys are having a stellar month, because it seems to be a stellar month in Nikken for sure. This is, again, another kind of record-breaking month. Last month was pretty good. This is even gooder. So if you want to look at that as an example, and people we're seeing the numbers increase. So that's a very, very positive thing. We want to do that. We want to emphasize that. I wanted to share with you some information that has been recently discussed in a number of high-level calls, and I felt very compelled to bring this up, because it's as if there's a lack of understanding of this concept that we refer to in Nikken as the rhythm of the business. And I'm probably going to have to do this call more than once, because I was just going to start with this and just go straight into it so we have a recording of it. But the rhythm of the business is an idea. It's not new. But it's extremely important, and it's extremely powerful if you understand this idea and implement this idea. One of the things that we're seeing in Latin America is this phenomenal growth, and it's because there has been an effort on the parts of the marketing director of Nikken Latin America and sales director to both install this rhythm and educate people on the rhythm. In fact, when they brought me in a couple of years ago to Cancun for their Diamond Seminario, that was the presentation I was asked to present, was the rhythm of the business. It seems to be a fairly common one for people who are looking to build movement and momentum. So I thought it would be nice if I went over this concept of the rhythm of the business, so you can see how it really applies not just to the company at that level. It goes right down to the very first person, the newest person on your team. Everyone is contributing to the rhythm in their own way. But if you have an appreciation for it, you'll understand just how powerful it is if we get it right. And then, of course, how chaotic it can be if we don't get it right, if we're in fact competing with it. So let me begin with this presentation, and I'll try and go through it really, really quickly. And if you've got any questions while I'm going, jump in. So essentially, the rhythm of the business is what we call it. It's a support structure that uses the concept of the ABC, and we've all been talking about what the ABC is. Really, essentially, it is a way to create alignment for growth and momentum. And since we're on the Aligning with Success call, it's appropriate to have this conversation. Now, let me give you an example of what we mean. Let's say we're all standing around a swimming pool, and one of us is sitting on the diving board, and we're looking out over the water, and the water's very, very calm. And then we ask our downline, our frontline team, to gather around us. It could be cross line. It just doesn't matter. Just everybody's gathered around the swimming pool. And everyone picks up a rock, and they hold this rock in their hand. And so they start throwing this rock in the water randomly. What would it look like if they did that? If you were looking at the surface of the water on that diving board, looking over the water, what would you see? You would see a bunch of random splashes here, there, and everywhere, creating a mess on the surface of that water. So to all the observers observing the surface of the water, they would say, it's just noise. It's just random stuff happening there. I don't see anything. I can't see a pattern. Now, if we took the same, wait, let me finish the sentence. So the challenge is how to synergistically align multiple visions and action plans. That's everybody who has their own vision for their business, for their future, their own plan of action in an industry that even promotes individuality and self-expression. How do you align this so that we can meet organizational and corporate goals? Organizational goal would be, let's say you want to go silver, or you want to go gold, or you want to go platinum, you want to go diamond, or you want to hit any of the incentives that Nikken has put on the table for 2018. it's not going to be done alone. You need a team, but you got to get all those individual minds with all those individual visions, with all those individual plans on the same page in some synergistic way so that we can create an outcome. It's really simple. So we're going to take the same people, we're going to take the same rock, and we're going to get everybody to get on the same page. So let's take that rock in everybody's hand, and instead of randomly throwing them in the water, we're going to say, the observer is going to say, okay, I want you to focus on the center of the pool, and on the count of 3, we're going to throw in our rock to the center of the pool. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. And what do we see? Boom. A huge splash, as if we threw one big rock, one giant rock in the pond or the pool, and that created a big splash. And now if you're the observer watching this from this diving board, what do you see? You see a big wave and a wave front coming at you, very defined, very pronounced, and now it has definition. So if we're trying to create impact, if we're trying to move an audience, if we're trying to create an impact of Nikken in a town, in a city, in a country, we need to get on the same page. And in order for this thing to happen, there had to be a conductor. There had to be somebody saying on the count of 3, and then they did the count, 1, 2, 3. There had to be a common thread in terms of their vision. The vision was everybody aim for the center of the pool. And so those are the components that make it work. There needs to be a high level of understanding of what it is that we're trying to achieve together here. So what's needed? We need a support structure that empowers duplication of leadership, meaning we're not just duplicating people in the business, we're duplicating platinums, diamonds, silvers, golds. We have to duplicate leadership in a way that's timely so that we can move our business forward and advance in some type of a timely fashion. So another example of the rhythm of the business in life. If you're pushing a swing, if you don't push that swing with some type of a rhythm, that swing is going to knock you over, or you're going to disrupt its flow. So we understand to get a swing to go higher and higher, to increase the amplitude, to increase the potential, to increase the results, we have to time it properly. We have to hit the timing of that swing. That's a natural rhythm. A bridge has a natural rhythm. In fact, some bridges have been defeated by just the wind blowing in such a manner that it literally struck the bridge with the frequency that was the natural frequency of that bridge, causing the amplitude to increase and the bridge to collapse. So every structure has its own rhythm. It has a natural rhythm. And our business is no different. It has a natural rhythm. Here's another example. A rocking chair versus a jack. Now, the rocking chair is just rocking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, but it goes nowhere. That's a useless rhythm. We want motion. We want forward motion. So we want a ratchet system where every time we're moving that jack, it's going up and up and up. So that's the rank advancements that we're after. Movement that's forward. So it's got to be a ratchet system. So if we look at our Nikken business and its own natural rhythms, it's defined by the structure of the business or the ranks, essentially. And that's what we call the rhythm of the business in Nikken. Let me just jump really quickly ahead. As we know, an ABC is how we leverage. Well, we're going to learn how to leverage using events. And that's essentially the structure that we want to build from the ground up. So if you're in a brand new city and there's nothing going on, that's good news. The good news is the future of Nikken in that city is in your hands if you want it to be. And by the way, you will benefit for that. You know, the person who puts Nikken on the map, wherever they put Nikken on the map, is going to be the one who benefits from that experience, or that team that benefits from that experience. So all those new businesses that you're hearing, those new silvers, those new golds, those new platinums, those new diamonds, those are people who made a decision, started moving forward, built a team, and that forward progression was planned out and accelerated because they had a very consistent event schedule that they plugged into and superimposed and created for themselves. So let's look at how this works. On the left-hand side, we have, let's just see. I don't know if you can see my pointer. Tell me if you can see my pointer. You can, okay. So here on this vertical axis, we have You Inc. And on the horizontal axis, we have You CEO. And remember, you are not your business. So give your business a name. So Good Vibrations International is going to become a Royal Diamond. I've got Royal Ambassador in here with the hope, and the hope held out that is a business, that is a position that Nikken will acknowledge as we start developing more diamonds and Royal Diamonds in the field. So let's look at this. A person starts Nikken and then starts growing up to Royal Diamond. However, in order to do that, they have to learn certain things. That's the roles and responsibilities here on the other side. So the combination of the two, what you develop in terms of skills and leadership, what you develop in terms of results, they go hand in hand. And that's that green line we call the ideal growth curve. So the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? But in reality, it's never a straight line. Sometimes it's a little bit too curved. But the goal is to get us from point A to point B in some type of a consistent way, an ideal way. I mean, if I didn't know what the ideal was, then I'm going to be all over the place. So when we go to our GPS and we ask for the coordinates to get from where we are to where we want to go, it usually gives us one or two options, and it tells you how much time it takes based on which option you choose. And what do you choose? The ideal. Normally we choose the ideal, which is what? The one that takes the least amount of time, right? So this is the example that we're using here. So we start our Nikken experience, a new Nikken Wellness Home, the Nikken Wellness Home. That's how we begin our humans being more experience in Nikken, by first embracing the Nikken products. And then, so that's discovering it and then living it by putting those products to use in your home and in your personal experience. And what's the next thing? We discover it, we live it, and then we what? We share it. And so the share it is the activity that we engage in and the support that we leverage in order to be more effective at sharing it. And obviously, the more impact, the greater the footprint of what we have been able to accomplish, us and our team, the greater the results that we're going to experience in terms of rank advancement. And the goal here is to go from somebody who's new to an ever-expanding, balanced 5 pillars. So this sort of gives us the map, the GPS for the ideal scenario. Let's look at it more carefully. If you're brand new in the business and you've just become a partner with somebody, then you're now, the impact that you're having is on a personal level because you're embracing Nikken. It's when you start sharing it that you're going to expand that impact. And so you start sharing it by doing the things that we ask you to learn how to do. You learn and apply how to contact and invite. That's the most fundamental thing to learn in Nikken. How do I contact and invite people into this information? And when we do that enough times on a daily basis, we're going to get some help from our upline and we're going to advance in rank. And as you advance in rank, you teach what you learn to the people who you've enrolled. So that's the basics of this ABC concept. Now that you're a silver and you've had an impact, say to a small handful of people, a small team, a local impact, is there something we need to learn and apply? Yeah, there is. As a silver, we learn to apply the process of the ABC at that capacity, which might mean maybe hosting a wellness home briefing in your home or a strategy session where you can be that support for the new people. You could be the person who hosts an in-home, for instance, and presents a nice wellness home presentation or business or a better way presentation. And so the silver is usually where somebody becomes a little bit more competent and their ability to present is starting to be showcased. Who are they presenting for? They're presenting for their new partners and the guests of their new partners, including some of their own. And that should happen at least on a weekly basis. once a week, if not more. So now what happens when you start hosting meetings for your downline? Well, your downline starts to grow. And guess what happens to you? Your business grows. So you advance in rank to gold, which is 15,000 in volume. So now you've got a downline who've got customers and their own team starting to be built. And now your footprint is expanding. Maybe you're now in a big town. Maybe now you're in a city. So you're now starting to have a footprint of your business in that city, or a municipality, as we call it in Canada. Well, now you're gold. You need to learn something. What? Well, in our business, we wrap up the month in a month end. And one of those things is an event we call a lock-in. We just had one. And those lock-in events are really, really important because they help wrap up the month for all the new guests and prospects who are maybe sitting on the fence, like tonight. We want to help them wrap it up. If we had a lock-in to bring them to, then it helps that process. And sometimes that lock-in is a conference call. Sometimes that lock-in is a in-home that you tap into, which is what we're recommending you do, a Power ABC, where we have some superstars come in via Zoom and be a guest speaker at your event for your team, so that the right things can be discussed and decisions can be made, and new partners join, customers buy products, partners who have been active become silver, silvers are building momentum. It just feeds the whole system. These events are successive in nature. They are not the same event. They all offer a little bit of content that's a little different. So now you're gold, and you're doing the thing that golds do by hosting those monthly events, and you advance in rank because you're now functional. You're now helping your team grow, and you become a platinum, and that means you've got a regional footprint. So you see how this is working out. It's just a step by step. As you build in new competencies or new events, it starts to grow. So for instance, right now, I'm going to be hosting an international event because I'm a Royal Diamond. Look at that grid. It says Royal Diamond International. So I should be doing such a thing as a Royal Diamond. And so it's going to be an annual event because that's what the rhythm calls for. It should be something that happens on an annual basis. And so if you're a platinum in NECAN, then one of the things you want to be hosting is a regional event. And when should it happen? According to the rhythm of the business, quarterly. So that's how you support the growth of your team. But of course, if you don't have a team locally, that would be kind of pointless. So you're going to take off your platinum hat, even though you're platinum in rank, and you're going to put on the hat that is appropriate. So let's say you're operating in a new area. When Mike DiMuccio travels to a new city and wants to generate business because he's got somebody he just sponsored, he takes off his Royal Diamond hat and he puts on his silver hat because I've got a new partner in that city. Well, what does a silver do for a new partner? According to this, I'm supposed to host some presentations that they can bring people to, and I can show them what NECAN is all about and the strategy for building a business. And I should be doing that at least once a week. So if you're going to sponsor long distance, be prepared to get to that place at least once a week. And because I like to get things done fast, that's another reason why I want to help somebody get silver done real fast, so they don't have to travel that distance every single week. I want to help them get to silver real quick, so then they can be the one who hosts that in-home event. And then I can come to them once a month because I'll take off my silver hat, I'll put on my gold hat. They're now a silver. They'll take over the weekly rhythm, and I'll pick up the monthly rhythm. I'll go and visit them once a month. To do what? To host that lock-in event that wraps up the month. So you see, all these events actually play a role in helping progression of the business. Let me show it to you in a different way. Let's say you are a silver and you're hosting that in-home, like I'm doing tomorrow night. Wait, it's Wednesday night. I'll have an in-home Wednesday night at my place for my partners new here in Toronto. And on Saturday, I'm going to host a strategy session, an SS for short in this grid. A strategy session. Why? Because people will come to the meeting and get informed for the first time, and they need some time to process the information. And those who are interested in knowing the business of the business are going to get the what presentation on Saturday. That's how I'm carving up my week. So there'll be a Wednesday in-home followed by a Saturday in-home, but they will have two different conversations. So the first one will be the introduction to Niken, the products, the opportunity, and the second one will be the introduction to our compensation plan and how we go about building that business, because it's hard to get it all in one sitting. So that'll be my strategy for running my business here locally as I'm building up a new base in the Toronto market. And so what happens then is I'm the A for my new partner, who's the B, and they'll be bringing their guests, who the C, right? And the job of the A is to present the information to the C with the hopes that that C is going to become a partner. That prospect moves up and becomes a partner. So that's the ABC. And of course, the goal is if I do that enough, my partner does what? They become a silver. So there you have it. The business in a nutshell. Why we call it the ABC, because it literally is ABC. So now, oh, by the way, let me back up for a second. What is the role of each person in that meeting? Well, the A presents. The C, well, their job is to listen and evaluate the information. But the B plays a role too. Normally we say, be quiet. B stands for be quiet. But truthfully, there will be a time when the B is asked, what was your experience? What did you do when you got started? What products did you order? The B will be the person who they trust, the prospect trusts, because they're the ones who invited them. And they will validate the information. Yeah, the products really do work. Yeah, this is what I did to get started, etc. So B does do something. They validate the information. And if you have more than one B in an in-home, which in sometimes I do, in fact, right now, this one Wednesday, there will be at least two Bs, and each of them will bring their own prospects. I'll be the acting A for both of them. And again, the same thing. The Bs will be given an opportunity when I feel it's important for them to share their story, their testimony. And B number 2 will be a really great testimony for the prospects of B number 1, and vice versa. So that's the ABC concept in a nutshell, but it doesn't end with an in-home presentation. So there are daily activities that need to happen in order for this business to move forward. All Niken consultants, whether you're a partner or a Royal Diamond, need to be contacting and inviting new people to learn about Niken every day in this process that I've been teaching called the partnering process. We have a process we want to invite people into so they can discover Niken. And we want to do that every day, whether you're a brand new partner or a Royal Diamond, but especially if you're a brand new partner, especially if you're a brand new partner. So that's the daily rhythm. Then we have the weekly rhythm. The weekly rhythm is what I just talked about, where there's wellness previews, in-homes, strategy sessions. Somebody's facilitating that. Maybe it's just over coffee. Sometimes I do these meetings in a coffee shop, one-on-one, because there's not a large group. But this meeting does happen because it's important to go from a contact and invite to a full-on presentation. Somebody needs to do that full-on presentation who's comfortable doing that presentation. And in this case, it would be me. I take off my Royal Diamond hat, I put on my silver hat, and I do a presentation for those new guests on behalf of my partner. That's the ABC. Now, the next event in the calendar would be the monthly event, the lock-in event, for instance. Here it says MM event, mid-month event. That event should happen sometime in the course of the month. We've selected to do our lock-in events the third Saturday of every month. So maybe you were on the last one as a guest, or maybe you were on the last one because you had guests, or maybe you were on the last one because you were hosting it as a gold or above. You were hosting your own lock-in event. And so in this particular ABC, the gold is the A, the silver is the B, and the new partner is the C. Now, you might think, well, wait a second. Why isn't the prospect the C? We already have a meeting for that person. That's the weekly. Now they're in. They're now a partner. Where do they go next? How do we stretch their vision to move to the next level? Which is something we need to keep doing in this process, as we just keep stretching that elastic band and moving people forward. So the job of the gold, who's hosting that event, is to show the partners how to launch their business so that they too can start moving forward in the advancement of ranks. So they're going to review things like the partnering process, and they're going to review things like the launch strategy. But who's the B in the ABC in this? It's the silver. So what do I want with a silver? I want them to validate what I just shared, that there is a thing called the partnering process that works. And there's a launch strategy that, if we apply, can help us advance in rank and build a team quickly. And hopefully that silver will validate that information. Example, the Silvers of Blast call that I spoke of at the beginning of this call is a great example of a number of people who've been interviewed who went from partner to silver in the course of the previous month. And they explain, oh my God, was there a process? And how was there a process? Sometimes it was exciting, sometimes it was frightening, sometimes it was nerve-wracking, and sometimes there was just tremendous elation. But the point was, there was a process. And there was a strategy. And that strategy all came together somehow by some miracle in the last week, days, or even hours of the month. It seems to be rather consistent that these miracles show up right at the last minute in the month. And you'll hear those testimonies one after the next. Validate, yes, this is true. If you were a partner, or for that matter, if you happen to be a prospect sitting in that meeting, like a fly on the wall, would you not be inspired by that information? Would you not think to maybe put your hand up and say, I'd like to be in the next launch. I'd like to be somebody who moves forward in this business. The goal of that event, that lock-in event, is to lock in the partner, meaning to get somebody to go from being either a prospect or a consultant sitting on the fence to lock them into being a partner who's launching their business. That's the goal of the lock-in event. Can you wrap that lock-in event up with a front end and a back end? Sure you can. You can put a front end where there's maybe a mini wellness preview. Can you put a back end where maybe you bring in a platinum or a diamond? We call those an A+. Maybe you bring in an A+. So you've got a presentation for a C-, I guess in this case would be prospects. Or you have, on the back end, you might bring in a platinum or a diamond to be an A+, which is what we do when we invite that Zoom meeting, that Power ABC. We bring that royal diamond or that diamond or group of them into your meeting so that you've got some A+ coming into that meeting to validate what you're doing at that meeting. And so every meeting is stretching that elastic a little bit further, moving people forward. That's the purpose of the rhythm of the business. And it works if you work it. And then it goes from there. We have our regional strategy. Our regional strategy is to have something once a quarter where we draw from people in the region. That's why we call it a regional. And there's a lot of interesting ones happening. I know in the Northeast, Madeline, Connie, a bunch of you guys have had some regional events. Michelle, who just ran a regional recently. So you've got pockets, areas where a group of platinums kind of work together, and they organize an event. And sometimes they invite somebody like me, a diamond or above, to be an A+, to come in, to be sort of a guest speaker, to support that event. And we want to encourage that. That's one of the things we really, really want to encourage to help develop the region. So if you're going to have an event like that, the A is the platinum, the gold is the B, and the silver is the C. Now, can you have C minuses? Of course, you can wrap that event up with a front end and a back end. The front end would be what would appeal to people who are not yet a silver, meaning prospects and partners. A wellness preview, some basics of getting started in the business. What about the back end? What's the back end going to be? What are the diamonds and royal diamonds you've invited to the event going to do? What are you going to have them do? Usually, I prefer to do something that's big picture. Don't ask me to do some basic training or stuff like that. You can do that on a local level. Ask me to do something that is more pertinent to the big picture, because that's where I'm going to be able to shine and really bring in some oomph to your meeting. So, but the target of that meeting is the silver. They're the target. That's the audience you want to appeal to. Why? Because do silvers get stagnant in NECANN? Oh my. The ratio of silvers to gold in NECANN is like 15-1, if not even more, which means not enough silvers are picking up the pace and going for gold because they set a goal to go silver. They didn't set a goal to go gold. So how do we get that elastic band to stretch again? We got to give them something to think about, something to feel about. And so what we want to showcase in this meeting are the people who validate the experience of going gold, which happens to be the golds. So give lots of time for your golds to do their testimony. That's who needs to really be the shining example in a quarterly regional. And then you bring your diamonds and royal diamonds to just sprinkle some stardust to that event. But the real testimonies that we want to hear are those golds in the audience, so that the silvers know it's doable, because it's a big gap between silver and diamond. Let's face it, it's a big jump. But from silver to gold is not that big. They can see it. So let's give them some golds that they can relate to. Let's make some introductions. And that way they can feel the experience and get closer to it in their own mind and maybe decide, you know what, I'm going to go for it. This next 90 days, I'm going for it. I'm going to put my gold business together. And if you have people who put their hand up and say, okay, I want to get to gold. I'm silver, but I want to go gold now. Then that meeting was a great meeting. You had a great success if that happens. Of course, if you happen to be prospects, if there's prospects in that audience, you don't think they're going to be inspired? I think they're going to be inspired. And they get to participate in this process too, from the outside looking in, thinking, you know what? This is a pretty cool group of people. They got some really interesting things to share, good stories, good successes. It seems quite doable. Maybe I'm just going to go from being a prospect straight to gold. Maybe I'm just going to focus on gold in the next 90 days. Wow, what if that happened? If you got some guests or prospects in the room who heard this story and they think, you know what? Why would I want to go silver when I could go gold? Let's go for gold in the next 90 days. Now you got somebody who's going for Paragon. That event is a killer event if that's what it's doing in the minds of people. And that should be on a quarterly basis, run by the platinums in the region. And it's good if the platinums are working together, collaborating together to create such an event. Very, very important. But don't forget who the A is, who the B is, and who the C is, because that's what makes that event particularly useful. And then from there, we go on to a national strategy where we would have an advanced leadership. Well, do we have one of those in the calendar in 2018? Oh, by golly, we do. It's in July in Orlando. So in July in Orlando, there's going to be an event, a meeting that's particularly targeting the leadership in NECANN so that we could help advance some of those ranks to the next rank. So the diamonds are hosting and co-hosting this event. So you'll see a lot of them presenting at the event. But we really want to feature those platinum stories. That event is really done right. You're going to hear from platinums. That's going to be a strong case for people going for platinum. And who do we want to target? Golds. Now, if you happen to be a guest who's not even in NICAN, or you happen to be somebody who just joined, or maybe you've been in the NICAN for a while, but you haven't really made any moves yet, and you come to such an event, do you think you might be inspired? Heck yeah. In fact, you might say to yourself, silver? Nah. Gold? Maybe, but that doesn't really excite me as much as that platinum thing does. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are offering a trip to Italy if I make that happen. So I think that's probably what I want to target. So you get some people at that event in July, and that's going to be what's going to happen in their mind and in their mindset, because that's how that event is designed and supported by design. It's done that way on purpose. And so now you see, why are these events important? Why are they important to attend? Why are they important to have your team to? Because each one does something a little different, stretching that elastic band a little bit further and causing the right person to make the right decision at the right time to go next, to the next rank. And of course, there's going to be some shiny royal diamonds at that event to do their thing too. And then finally, we have that annual event that's hosted by Royal Diamonds. In this case, for me and Botanis, will be hosting the event in Toronto in October 12, 13, and 14 if you're going to do the excursion to Niagara Falls, which I suggest you do because it's spectacular. And so we're going to be featuring diamonds because those stories are really, really important. And of course, the target is platinums. We're going to be doing something really spectacular at this event. We're going to be introducing a new annual thing. I'm hesitant to give it away because I'm just not going to do it yet until the website's ready. But trust me when I tell you, I spent half the day today on this particular subject alone. And it's very, very exciting what we're going to do so that we add some interesting dynamics for those who are really looking to be an example of leadership. And so the people that are highlighted on this page are the Royal Diamonds, Diamonds, and Platinums. So there's going to be something that happens very special for a select group of those Royal Diamonds, Diamonds, and Platinums, and you guys are going to be part of that selection process. So that ABC is, an A is a Royal Diamond, a B is a Diamond, and the Platinums are the target. We want those Platinums to move forward, to be inspired to move forward. And of course, if you happen to have some golds, silvers, some new partners, or even some guests at an event like that one, and they're showcasing the diamonds and they're making a big fuss about it, don't be surprised if some of them start getting, twinkles in their eyes, thinking, some idea that maybe they should be a diamond, because that sounds a lot more interesting and exciting, and things, life begins at diamond, it seems, for these people. So don't be surprised if that becomes something that they start pulling toward. And so as you can see, this rhythm of the business has a very functional thing, and we're not going to get into the next one because that one's not yet ready in place. So the goal is to move people forward in a rhythmic way, in a way that sets up the advancement. So there's your rhythm of the business. Any comments or feedback?
It's getting late. Let them finish.
Very good. You guys got things to do. Close out this month. Thanks for that comment, Madeline. So sayonara, this was recorded, so I'll just write it down as rhythm of the business, and you can find this to share on the Aligning with Success. So have yourselves a great month then, guys. And
Go for it. Wendy, Carissa.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, go for it, guys. Have a good one.